agenda for the rest of the time is I gotta make a presentation on holistic science. Jeff was talking about the convergence of spirituality and science, and that is what I will be looking at. Holistic science is the term that I use for that convergence of spiritual science with natural life sciences, like natural sciences and the social sciences. Those three sciences and the spiritual science, they converge with each other. There's perfect correlation. You can talk about one in the language of the other. So that is what the topic will be. And then I will finish around 12 o'clock. And then we'll have a discussion session for about half an hour. And that is what we have in mind for the agenda for the day. I'm going to share another screen.
Shiv, will I flag you at 10 to 11?
Yeah, I think I should be able to finish about 12 o'clock or so. Yeah, please do remind me at 10 to
11. I'll give you 10 minutes. Okay.
As Jeff was talking about, you know, like these two UN convergence, UN observances, World Interfaith Harmony and the International Day of Yoga. These two are the latest United Nations observances that happen yearly. World Interfaith Harmony talks about the love of God, love of neighbor, and love of good. And yoga, on the other hand, it's a technology. It's an enabling technology. How we enable the love of God, the love of neighbor, the love of the good is through yoga. And that is what our approach is. And the presentation that I'll make next week would be on what is yogic contemplation and what are the steps that we have to follow to get there. And today we look at the science that underlies that technology. That science, as we term that science as holistic science. That science which emerges when social sciences, natural sciences, life sciences, and spiritual sciences converge. We're going to look at the spiritual science before we look at others. And we look at it following the understanding of the authors of the scriptures. You can say the prophets and sages and seers that were responsible, whose understanding of the human nature, whose understanding of the origin of the universe got us going. So, origin of the universe, science talks about the Big Bang. Where is that Big Bang originated? It originated in a point, which they call the point of discontinuity. And at that point, what they say is an immensely dense point where the whole energy of the universe and beyond is concentrated. So from that point, an explosion happens, and through which that explosion, there is an expanding universe. The size of the universe as of now is considered to be 92 billion light years. unimaginable. Light travels at the rate of about 300 kilometers per second, 300,000 kilometers per second, 186,000 miles per second. And you can multiply by how many seconds in a year, and you'll get a distance which equals a light year. So 92 billion light years across. That is the size of the universe. And in that universe, our planet is just a small piece of dust. You can say a small speck that cannot even be visible. So how did this thing happen? Why did it happen? Nobody knows. Science doesn't know. Spirituality doesn't know. Imagine this hymn was written maybe 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. It's from the Rig Veda of India. The name of the hymn is Nasadiya Sukta. As you translate that into English, it means the hymn of not the non-existent. Non-existent is something that doesn't exist. So not the non-existence, double negation means it is not the non-existent. It exists, but it doesn't exist in an ordinary sense of the word. In ordinary sense of the word, existence means there's a physicality. There's no physicality to it. And it is, you can say, something very, 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 very immensely subtle thing. Okay, so the hymn starts like this. You can picturize the Big Bang there. Then there was neither ought nor not. There was something, there was not something, and there was not something not, whatever. Neither ought nor not. No air or sky beyond. What covered all, where rested all, in watery gulf profound. Watery gulf profound doesn't mean that water existed, that everything was so much in fluidity, nothing seemed to, nothing discernible was there. Nor death was then, nor deathlessness. Nothing existed, so how could anything die? No, nor change of night and day. That one, not who is that one? That one is that, not the non-existent, that we cannot talk about. We don't even know whether it exists or it doesn't exist. Or no, we know that it exists, but we cannot show it. It doesn't exist in any material form. So the form is spiritual, which means other than material. That one breathed calmly, self-sustained. There was nothing else to sustain it, self-sustained. Gloom and doom existed first. One sea eluding view. That one, a void in chaos wrapped. By inward fervor grew. There was energy inside from his internal energy, it grew. So that is what you saw in the Big Bang. It was growth from nothing, a point. A point is a dimensionless quantity. So that's where it originates, and expansion from that point happens. Within it, first arose desire, the primal germ of mind. So what was the first thing that was created? The seed of the mind, the primal germ of the mind, which nothing with existence links, as sages such as find. The kindling ray that shot across the dark and dreary abyss, was it beneath or high aloft? What bard can answer this? Who can answer? What happened? How did that separation happen from not the non-existent and of the existence? How did existence separate from not the non-existence. Who can tell? Which bard can answer this? The fecundating powers were profound. Fecundating powers mean the creative powers were found, and mighty forces strove, a self-supporting mass beneath and energy above. Who knows, whoever told from whence this vast creation came? No gods then have been born. Who then can ever the truth disclose? Nobody knows how it happened. Exactly the same thing as science of modernity says. Whence sprang this world, and whether framed by hand divine or none, its Lord in heaven alone can tell. Even he cannot show. So only he knows, the Lord above in heaven. Now this is a translation translated by the people who talked about Lord in heaven. The Sanskrit word is adhyaksha. Adhyaksha means the CEO, the chief operating or chief executive of a company. That is the word that in Sanskrit was used. Now come to Genesis. See the same language here. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Heaven is a metaphor for mind. That's what the Veda is talking about. The germ of the mind was the first creation. That is from where desire happens. So God created the heaven and the earth. Earth is the metaphor for the body. And then the earth was without form. Now it's talking about the planet. Was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Darkness wrapped in darkness. That's what the Neurophysiology Sutta was talking about. The same language, the same meaning. The words may be different. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters because there was no God. The Spirit of God was there. God came into existence along with the universe. And
Shiv, forgive me. Are you sharing your PowerPoint as a share screen, or are you just reading from your own?
Oh, no,
did
I share it or not?
No, it's not on a share screen.
Okay, maybe I'll share it. Sorry, I meant to share it, but it didn't happen.
No worries.
Okay, can you see it now?
There you go. Perfect.
And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. There was no nothing was differentiable before. Everything was dark. So you could not tell anything from anything else. There was only one thing, that's watery gulf profound. Okay, Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Watery gulf over there, face of the waters here. So, and God saw the light, and that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and night and day were born. So they're talking the same language. Chinese, Taoism, there was something undefined and complete coming into existence before heaven and earth, before mind and body. Heaven and earth are metaphors of mind and body, universal metaphors. They're in the Vedas, they're in Genesis, they're in Chinese language, the same thing. There was something undefined and complete. And from that something undefined and complete, this universe happens to come from. And the Chinese call it the Tao, or Tao. The Tao that can be understood cannot be primal or cosmic. Tao just is an idea that can be expressed in words, cannot be an infinite idea. Any idea that you can express in words cannot be infinite idea, and Tao is infinite. So it is inexpressible in words, ineffable, in other words, cannot be known. Heaven and earth, and the 10,000 things that come from existence, but existence comes from non-existence. So existence comes from, in the Vedic language, it comes from not the non-existence, but that is what is implied here. Existence comes from non-existence. Nothing can come out of nothing. So whatever is non-existence actually was existence of some kind. And here there's a depiction of what is called yin and yang, energy and consciousness. Energy manifests through the mind, and consciousness manifests through the mind. So everything that exists has got a body and a mind, whether it's animate or inanimate. Even matter behaves, okay? There is an interiority of matter that makes the matter behave. There's an interiority of mind, we call it mind, that makes me behave. So there was those two which cannot be separate from each other. This is an inseparable embrace of those two, energy and consciousness. There is no mind without body, no body without mind. Essentially, that's what it means. Yin and yang, body and mind, earth and heaven, energy and consciousness need another principle called the Shakti, the prana, and Chinese is called Qi. And last time, what we were talking about the prana, the energy that we get when we breathe, okay? So that energy is the energy that makes us do things. Mind and body need energy for the body to engage in activity. Metaphysics. This universe is a growth from a point called energy. Energy is invisible. It is invisible. So represented as a point with no concreteness of their own. And from that point, growth happens. Growth happens means different things happen, become possible, and those different things are of different degrees of concreteness. There's a gradual increase in concreteness from this point, which is of no concreteness, to enough concreteness to be perceptible, okay? And this is what science these days talk about. Energy, from energy appears all kinds of matter, okay? And from energy, the first appearance is of something which we cannot really say what they are. Micro microparticles, really, they coalesce to become subatomic particles, and those subatomic particles are they are the mind of matter. The way the subatomic particles congregate in an atom defines how that atom is going to behave. So when atom becomes, macro particles are, say, molecules and atoms. Microparticles are subatomic particles, say quarks or something like that, something unimaginably small. They coalesce to become electrons, protons, and neutrons, which again get together in some kind of format to create atoms and molecules that become matter. And same thing in spirituality, in metaphysics, or the scripture, you can say, they're talking about spirit, which can be represented by a point of no concreteness of its own. It starts to grow, starts to become concrete, and all kinds of maybe a million or an infinite number of principles between this point and this point, and each principle is more concrete than the former, its cause. The cause is subtler than the result. That is the principle here that is being followed. And the cause of everything has got no subtlety at all. Zero concreteness, infinite subtlety. Okay, and that is the principle. The cause is subtler than the result. The universe is the result, and the universe is consisting of all kinds of grossness and subtle principles. So the cause of all the gross and subtle principles in the universe will be infinitely subtle with no concreteness at all. So that is metaphysics. So this side, you have imperceptible, this is perceptible. No concreteness, concrete, visible. Not spatial, it doesn't occupy any space. A point doesn't occupy any space at all. And this is spatial, it occupies space. This is eternal, timeless. On this side, there is temporal. So space and time is born. If something is temporal and it changes in time, this is changeless, this is always changing. This is unlimited, infinite, this is limited and finite. This is formless, this has got form. Without attributes, this has got all kinds of attributes. Does not act, this does act, behave. Okay, it needs energy to act. This is incomparable. It is a genotype of itself, whereas here there are different genres of existence. This is one, and this is many. This is how diversity happens. This is metaphysics, and this is what the scripture is talking about. And when I'm talking of the scripture, we're talking of scripture as the whole word. Holistic science of origination, the perceptible universe emerges from some reality, imperceptible itself, and termed spirit by ancient religious wisdom or energy by modern science. The universe and all its beings are concretizations in different configurations of a reality which in itself is not concrete at all. So that is the holistic science of origination of the universe. And that is where natural sciences and the spiritual sciences converge. And now let's talk about behavior, evolution of life, how life evolves and how that evolution determines the behavior of life. Okay, I'm going to look at the Big Bang. This is when the NASA Diya Sutta started to grow with its inner fervor. Okay, I'm quoting this one from NASA Diya Sutta and this one from Genesis. Okay, so when this started to grow, the initial growth was still so subtle that you can say you cannot tell A from B. Okay, it's a non-differentiation. The fundamental thing is non-differentiation. Watery gulf profound, something fluid which we cannot tell. Okay, and then this happened 13.8 billion years ago, and then the planet Earth came about 9 billion years later, 4.5 billion years ago, planet Earth. And between this point and this point, you can say things started to differentiate from one from the other. Oxygen is different from nitrogen, okay, and so on and so forth. I am different from you. This is where differentiation starts it, and then you have non-differentiation. When it comes to life, there's an instinct, which is called the noble instinct, which is in all of us, that is of non-differentiation. Even the animals are compassionate. Compassion is not only shown by human beings, it's shown by animals towards animals, by animals towards human beings. When humans are in distress, sometimes there are events that are recorded in history that the animals take mercy on the human beings, compassion. And then about 3 to 4 billion years ago came first single cell life form. So when that happens, first single cell life form becomes, what is the difference between life and matter, inanimate and animate? Life starts with some idea of the self. I exist. And life is programmed to keep surviving. Survival is built in. Once I become conscious of my existence, I do not want my existence to end. Okay, so the instinct of fear comes in. Okay, if I don't want to end my existence, I have to protect myself. That's where fear comes in. Without fear, we cannot exist. Okay, another thing comes in, that I need to sustain myself to exist. I need food. And if I want to keep on existing, the only way that can happen is if I procreate. So procreation, sustenance, and survival, these three are the basic instincts that are born about 3 to 4 billion years ago in the most primitive life forms. And then evolution happens from that primitive one single cell life form, multi-cell creatures emerged, and then animals emerged, and then finally human beings. And from there to there, you're talking about 2.4 billion years or 3.4 billion years. That's when first human-like cell was born. So from here to here, the three survival instincts that we talked about, there's another instinct added, that is the animal herding instinct. When the size grew from one cell to millions of cells, then the consciousness, the self-awareness grows, and we start to recognize this is my kind and this is another kind. Okay, that is called herd identity. I feel safe in my own kind because my own kind will not threaten me. They will not gobble me up. They will not eat me, whereas the other kinds can eat me. Nature is, very cruel. So stronger, bigger fish eat the small fish. So the small fish has to protect itself, and the small fish, if it's in a herd of thousands of them, they feel safe. So the herd identity is added to the initial instincts of survival. Okay, so the animal instincts are survival, sustenance, and procreation, plus the herd instinct. The Sanskrit word for that herd instinct is called ahankar. Ahankar means, aham means me. Akar means form. Something that has got the form, the same kind of look as I have. Okay, that is ego, or that is what is called herd identity. And from first single cell life to my first single cell, all kinds of growth happens, but instincts do not change.
We're at 10 to.
Pardon?
We're at 10 to 12.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then what happens? My first single cell becomes 2 and 10, and then 37.2 trillion cells when I grow up to be an adult. So from here, whatever my instincts were when I was a single cell, to whatever my instincts are as a grown-up person, all those instincts stay in my memory, in the memory of my genes, okay? And the ancients understood that, okay? So they understood that the basic noble instinct that we all have got, that is of non-differentiation, and then we have the survival instincts of survival, sustenance, and procreation, and then herd instinct is added. And when it comes to human beings, we have grown a little bit more in consciousness, then love comes in. And love starts as a love of the family, and then it can grow from there if we use our consciousness. The animal instincts work surreptitiously with in an unconscious manner or subconscious manner. When a human being comes into the picture, then we also have something that will work consciously. Love is a conscious thing. It grows from survival instinct, okay, and then it becomes, which is, survival instincts are unconscious, become subconscious, and then subconscious love, natural. Subconscious is natural love, and then we can really sublime that and we can make it unconditional, so that we can then love anybody that exists. Okay, I think this is what we already talked about. Some of it is the review of what we saw last time. We saw this last time. This is creaturely mind, and this is animal mind. We add herd instinct, so we can go fast in this, and then human being comes in, conditioned love and belonging, which is really a sublimation of the herd instinct or ego identity. And it starts off being subconscious, then becomes conscious, and then if we sublimate that, we can actually, there's a possibility for human beings to become unconditionally loving and accepting of everyone as ourselves. And this is what is actually expressed in the wisdom of the scripture. We have a body, we have sensory faculty, which works unconsciously. All creatures, single cell creatures have that. And then we have animal soul, creaturely soul, animal soul, And then human soul is the conscious ability that we have. And there's the two ways of expressing the same idea uh, with metaphors of serpent. Serpent is a metaphor, something that uh, happens to overcome us surreptitiously like a snake. And then that tempts one person, that tempts the other person. So this is another expression of the same idea. And Islamic wisdom, very similar. They call the creaturely soul as vegetative soul, animal soul, and akal. Akal is what is called the intellect. And Jewish Kabbalah talking about the same thing here. And Vedic wisdom, same ideas again. This is Manas. Manas is the coordinator of senses. And this is Ankara. Ankara means the feeling of people having the same soul or same form. Ankara is form. Buddhi is intellect. Jungean philosophy, psychology, and Freudian psychology. Unconscious is the mind has got unconscious. It's like they talk of an iceberg. The biggest part of the iceberg is underwater, and the way deep down is the unconscious, and closer to the surface is the subconscious, and above the water, small part, which is conscious. So that is Jungian philosophy, psychology. We're talking of social, and this is neurophysiology, life sciences. We have nervous system, which correlates with the sensory faculty, and then we have different regions of the brain that correlate with the subconscious, and then we got a neocortex. We talked about that in last week, so we will just skip the rest. So all that becomes, there's a convergence of one scripture with the other. There's convergence of the scriptures with the sciences, and that is what is expressed in this diagram. And I think that should be the end of my presentation. This is what we call holistic science, resulting from the convergence of all the sciences with the spiritual science of the scripture. And it's uncanny understanding of nature that is expressed in the scripture. And sciences have not found anything new. Historically, we disregarded the scripture as if they are just a matter of belief, but they are not belief. We did not apply ourselves to understand. Science did not understand the nature of existence. And science is growing, and a time came when the initial era of science became fashionable. Okay, so we started to agree with them. We said, whatever is not sense perceptible, just forget about it. And we have to show me thing, do an experiment, show me that kind of thing. There are many, many things in existence which cannot be shown in a laboratory. And yoga is technology built upon this science. Okay, now maybe I can take the time out next time when we talk about states of being and contemplation. Contemplative state is a state of being. There's a waking state, there's a dreaming state, and there's a dreamless state, and there's a contemplative state. Waking state is natural. Dream sleep is natural. Sound sleep, dreamless sound sleep is natural. But contemplative state, we enter with our own volition. And we'll talk about those states of mind maybe in the next time.